I've known for some time. Something about the world ain't right. The darkness lives in plain sight. In the ether, adjust your eyes. There are those that have no clue. You give them hints, they just stare at you. Most have lived in Plato's cave, watching.
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am here once again with Sheriff Mack. This is an exciting show because he's actually going to be here on Friday, January 9th in the Puyallup area with General Flynn, and he's going to go into more details. I'm just going to have that link scrolling across the bottom the entire show, and it's his website, and you can get tickets if you go to the Washington event is actually on there. So without further ado, welcome to the show once again, Sheriff Mack.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to see everybody there in Washington. It looks like we're going to have a real good crowd.
Absolutely. So tell us, we've had you on a few times, and you've went into your background and what you do. And I think this show would be good to focus, because we only got you for about a half hour, to focus on whatever you want to talk about the event, maybe how you met General Flynn, or whatever you feel is most important to cram into about a half-hour show.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I started an organization back in 2011 called the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. But I'd actually started the movement and the work behind that about 35 years ago. And even before that a little bit, because as a peace officer and as a detective, and then later on as 8 years as I served as sheriff, I just saw that there wasn't very much attention paid, especially when I was a rookie cop, a patrol officer. I just saw that there wasn't much attention paid to the Constitution by all three branches. The courts didn't really seem to care about the Constitution. The legislatures never really seemed to care about the Constitution. And we were never trained in law enforcement about our oath of office, about the Constitution. Oh yeah, we studied a lot of case law. We studied the Miranda case and the Ohio Terry versus Ohio and the Carroll Doctrine and on and on and on. But I wanted to know the fundamentals and the basics. And I wanted to make sure that I'm not just taking some other judge's opinion, that when I promise in the name of God that I will uphold and defend, protect and preserve the United States Constitution, that I can't abdicate that to somebody else, not to my chief of police, not to my sergeant, and not to my wife, and not to the barber down on Main Street. I owe the fulfillment of that oath and the execution of that oath to myself and to the God whose name I invoke when I say it, but I also owe it to the people I work for. And so I started studying the Constitution, and I started studying the Founding Fathers. And I wanted an organization that would be based on that and those principles, but also bring in the nation's police and sheriffs and public officials that will redirect the work we do and make everything we do coincide with the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, and even specifically the Bill of Rights, because that's really where it gives the rules for law enforcement. The Fourth Amendment, we have to have probable cause. We have to have duly signed warrants. And the Sixth Amendment, the due process that is guaranteed to the accused. We have to make sure that all happens. And the Eighth Amendment really got to me because I think it was talking about traffic tickets. And that was one thing that totally woke me up when I was writing a ticket to a lady one day. And I realized that she was the one in the wrong. She was the one that had run the stop sign, but I was the one in the wrong because I was just part of this whole nationwide scheme of raising revenue instead of increasing safety. And traffic tickets have very little to do with public safety. but they bring in about $9 or $10 billion a year, and
Right.
no politician's going to give that up. And so that day, I tore up that ticket. I didn't give her the ticket. I tore it up, and then that's when I decided I wanted to make sure that I was following the Constitution. And I kept a World Book Encyclopedia in my car. And when I wasn't on a call, I was reading and studying. And it was probably the most important law enforcement study and education I've ever had. And so, and when I was sheriff, I was ready because I knew the Constitution. And when the Brady Bill was promulgated by the federal government, and the federal government said, sheriffs, we don't have enough bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., so we're going to force you sheriffs to enforce the Brady Bill for us. And it was a gun control scheme. And I said, well, there's two problems with that. One, you don't have any jurisdictional authority to tell any sheriff what to do. Secondly, I'm not going to violate my oath for you or anybody else. And gun control in the United States of America is against the law. So I refused. I sued the Clinton administration on this very issue. 6 other sheriffs joined me in the lawsuit, and we kicked the Clintons' butt at the United States Supreme Court. We won. And this is the only time and first time in American history where sheriffs sued the federal government and won a landmark case pursuant thereof.
Wow. And what percentage of sheriffs from either that you've learned about or met firsthand are on the same page as you and really, really uphold the law? Because there's so much corruption.
Yeah, there is. And that's what we want them to do now, is to really go after corrupt public officials. The couple of judges that have been arrested recently, that's only the beginning and the tip of the iceberg. We need to go after corruption because corruption keeps crescendoing. It's a big snowball because no one is ever held accountable. So they just keep going and it gets worse and bigger and bigger and bigger. And so the American people have got to be a part of that. Look, when the founding fathers put it in the Constitution that the first 3 words were "we the people," that has a lot of significance. And we cannot be standing on the side of the parade waving as government goes by. We've got to get involved. We've got to be in the middle of it. And it's a high time we stepped up to the plate and made sure that our politicians' feet are held to the fire. And if they're not going to follow the Constitution, we need to get rid of them. And there's places when you do that they could actually be charged with treason, perjury, or other crimes. And now look at the corruption that is so ubiquitous all across our country. Minnesota is not even close to being the only one. I'll bet you there's not a single state where that's not happening. I guarantee you it's going to be 99% at least. And where we're coming, Washington, guess what? There's already sheriffs starting some investigations on the daycare centers that are there. There's only 539 daycare centers in Washington State that have started up recently, and it's got the same MO as Minnesota and Ohio.
Yep. And in fact, in the Pierce County, there's Keith Swank, and he's put out a notification on that. So I got to say, we're up in Washington State. Obviously, there's California, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Louis Herms, who's running for governor of California. I think you know who he is.
I do.
So there it is for hermsforcali.com. So, and a lot of people have said, Sheriff Mack, that, and this is why I bring up Louis Herms. He is a we the people guy. And a lot of people are on the sidelines and they're saying, well, nothing's been done about the corruption. How do you see this playing out? If you could give we the people kind of a playbook, a Cliff Note playbook of how they can get involved and how this is actually going to be, I guess, for lack of a better word, taken care of as time goes on.
Well, the reason we started the CSPOA was so that law enforcement and sheriffs would be connected a lot more with the community. And so we formed, a long time ago, the CSPOA posse, which is for the people. Posse actually means power. And so the people power is really what we're after. And we offer you an opportunity to join our posse. It's right there on our website. And then every Wednesday today at 3:30 Eastern and be 1:30 my time in Mountain Zone is we do an hour training to the people to how to get involved with your sheriff, to how to have a meeting with your sheriff, to the right questions to ask your sheriff, and then ask him, do you have a posse, and can we get started in being part of it? And the main thing is that the sheriff knows that there are volunteers in the community that are willing and ready to help him on a minute's notice. A posse should be called the Minuteman Group, that there's a Minuteman organization that the sheriff can rely on to help him keep the peace or work any emergency, a flood, any natural disaster. And they are ready, and you make one call, they call everybody else, and they've responded to the sheriff within minutes. And I've done that before, and I've seen it before. And when I was a cop in Utah, we had horrible floods, and the churches were all called out. And that was really quick because we had to go do sandbags, and we literally put sandbags from the mountain all the way down through the middle of a road, all the way over to the lake. And funneled the water with sandbag, rivers or canals, sandbag canals that really saved the community a great deal. But there were thousands of us that responded. That's what I want available to every sheriff. And most sheriffs already have posses. And by the way, if somebody ever complains, no, we don't want no posse, almost every sheriff in America already has a posse. It's called the Search and Rescue Squad. That is a volunteer group of Americans, of citizens that go and help, and they get trained. And we can train posses to do all sorts of things. If they can learn how to do search and rescue, they can learn how to help with transports or ride-along programs, or even people who want to get certified in firearms. How about have them ride along with cops, especially deputies who are in rural areas where they don't have a backup unit within 20, 30, 40 minutes. It's great to have one in the car, So anyway, the whole thing is based on we the people working with our sheriffs and local officials in making sure our community is taken care of.
Beautiful. And do you see your efforts starting to come to fruition a bit more now that there's the corruption's being exposed? Is this getting a little bit easier for you to get people on board somehow?
Not really, but we have so much pushback. We've been attacked and attacked and attacked. And what I know is that if you stand for the Constitution and you stand for the principles of freedom, and you actually say that you think Trump is doing a pretty decent job, they're going to attack you big time. You're a racist, you're an Islamophobe, you're a hater, and you hate women, and you're anti-Semitic, and I've been called all of that, and I don't know what the hell they're talking about, because I have never been any of those things. I've been accused of doing all sorts of things and being somebody that, first of all, my mom didn't raise us like that, but things that I never would dream of doing, and yet they lie about me all the time. So some sheriffs will see that and go, "Oh wow, I don't know if I want to be around that guy." I talked to one sheriff who I thought was a friend of mine. We'd actually spent some time together. And he goes, "I can't go to your event." I go, "Why? I was going to use you for the advertising for it." He goes, "No, I keep getting all these emails about you and those articles about you." And I said, "Well, those are all lies." And he goes, "Oh yeah, I know they're lies, but I don't want them to do it to me." So,
yeah.
So, but most sheriffs, I will tell you, most sheriffs, there was a survey by one of the periodicals that was going after me. They actually did a survey of about 600 sheriffs. And they found out in the survey that about half of the sheriffs in the country believe what we're doing is correct, that we all should be following the Constitution more. We should all be enforcing the Constitution more. But ones that will actually stand and do something about it, that's only about, I hate to say it's about only 10%. I will say, though, about 17% of the sheriffs of this country actually stood against COVID mandates and did not enforce them and refused to enforce them. And we applaud that. And that's That's probably the biggest amount we've had so far that actually stood and did something. And then there's other sheriffs that kind of did it more behind the scenes where they just didn't want any publicity, but they still did not force people to wear a mask or arrest people who were not wearing a mask, or actually stood in the way and made sure that businesses stayed open if they wanted. If the business owner wanted to close, it's up to him. If he didn't want to close, that's up to him, not government force.
Right. Right. Well, tell us a little bit about, and I'll pull up the website here momentarily,
Okay.
how this event came to be and what people can expect. Now it's Friday, January 9th, and I'll pull up it's the church in Puyallup, and the church will have this
The Experience Church. The Experience
thank you. And I'll pull this up right now so people can see it. So.
Well, the main reason we started is because we saw the news that Attorney General, I think his name is Nick Brown. I know his last name. The Attorney General of Washington is suing Sheriff Wagner in Adams County because he was helping with deportation, and he wanted to actually get criminals out of his community that the Biden administration had brought in. And because they are a sanctuary state and they've made laws against that, I guess, he's suing the sheriff. And right now, if you look at all the corruption and all the thievery going on with these people that have been infiltrating America, and Washington state is, of course, a big woke state, so people flock to Washington. The corruption behind all of this and the fraud being committed, you would think that Attorney General Brown would be focusing more on real crime instead of going after law-abiding, good, honest sheriffs. And Sheriff Wagner is a good man. And so we're coming to save the sheriffs, and it's a Save Our Sheriff rally. But the American people have got to understand, you're also, the people of Washington are a victim of all of this, because the state is trying to remove sheriffs and get sheriffs appointed instead of elected. And that is a huge catastrophe. Connecticut already did this 30 years ago. They don't have sheriffs there anymore. And it's a huge mistake. And the people of Connecticut have been calling me lots. How do we get this done? How do we get this reversed? And why would they want to get rid of sheriffs anyway? Because they don't follow orders. They don't do what they're told. They're independent and they answer to the people. And the only supervisor your sheriff has is you, the voters, the constituents, the people in that county. And that's what makes us a constitutional republic instead of a democratic dictatorship, is what really most of the politicians in Washington are shooting for. In King County, they already appoint the sheriff, and they're trying to do that statewide. And they're trying to pass legislation that gives the authority and power to the state legislature to say who can and cannot run for sheriff. And then if they don't like what the sheriff's doing, they can just remove him. So
wow, like you
that's
said, that
absolute insanity.
It is, right. You know, and Keith Swank in Pierce County was recently elected. I actually have interviewed him a few years back when he was running for a different office. But so what can people expect at this event on Friday at 6 p.m. with you and General Mike Flynn? Tell us a little bit about what's going to happen this Friday.
Well, there's a press conference at 1:00 at the same church. So if you want to come by and be part of that, please do. But we realize that a lot of people have to work on Fridays, and so we're scheduling the big rally, Save Our Sheriffs, at 6:00 in the evening. Everyone is invited to that. Okay, you can pay at the door, $17.76. Yeah, I think you see the spirit of 76 there. Yes,
Yep.
That's what we're trying to do. That was intentional. And so we want to just reestablish the principles of freedom that made America great in the first place. And so that's what we're going to reinforce. And the motto that General Flynn has put out nationwide in most of his speeches is just simply this: local action, national impact. Local action equals national impact. And I've put that into my whole organization, into my whole life. I've said that numerous times. The best way we take back America is county by county and state by state. Look, Trump is doing a good job, but we've seen that the deep state and the corruption of Washington, D.C. is just too big. It's too big for one man. It's too big for one president. And although he's trying and working his best, wow, he's pulled off miracles. He's not going to be able to do this by himself. And we, the people and the sheriffs, have got to get behind him and have his back and make this happen. And the best way we do it, again, county by county.
Yep. Well, this has been powerful, right to the point. I hope to see a bunch of great, amazing patriots in the Northwest there. Anything else you want to say in closing? As we try to end on an inspiring note, and you're nothing but inspiring anyway.
Well,
but anything you want to say?
First of all, I want you there. I want your partners there. Anybody doing this, you could be part of the press conference because you own this media outlet, your podcast. We'd love to have all of you there. In fact, I think you would love to be there. It's going to be pretty exciting, and we're going to establish that the media. You can't be one-sided. You can't be a Democrat media. You can't be a Republican media. You need to be America's media. That's it. Tell the truth. Shine the light on what's going on. And politicians are not allowed, Democrat or Republican, just to do anything they damn well please. And if we're going to really save America, if we're going to make it, we have got to get back to those fundamental principles upon which our Constitution was established in the first place. This is the holy cause of liberty today, and we must have the people working with public officials as part of the solution. And I'll close with the last line of the Declaration of Independence from our founding fathers. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. We today must do likewise.
Beautifully said. Sheriff Mack, it's been an honor to have you on the show. You're an inspiration. I can't wait to meet you in person and shake your hand. And we need more of you in the world. So I can't wait to see how this fire spreads in Washington State, because boy, is it necessary.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
All right. Take care, everybody. Hope to see you on Friday. Cheers.
For some time, something about the world ain't right. The darkness lives in plain sight. In the ether, adjust your eyes. There are those that have no clue. You give them hints, they just stare at you. Most could live in Plato's cave, watching